So, for example, you said you've heard a woman's voice watching an NFL game. Absolutely, I have too. Unfortunately, 85% of all of the ads during this last Super Bowl were voiced by men.
Mhm.
And when you break it down per genre of male-dominated genres like tech, alcohol, insurance, automobile, the highest percentage was 12% voiced by women. So, yes, we are hearing more women. It's great. We're hearing more women in these spaces here and there. But by and large, they're not existent. They don't exist. And to your point that you just made, that using a woman's voice can grab attention. It's something different. It's something unexpected. Why aren't more brands doing it? Do you have any experience when working with your clients that they request all male? Have you ever said to them, "Hey, how about I throw in a few females just to see what it sounds like?" Or do you just do it? Where is this where is the puzzle not fitting together? Because to me, it just makes
Yeah.
sense, but for some reason it's not happening.
Yeah, that's an amazing statistic that you said, 85%, like that. That's something that, wow, that's something that's really just eye-opening because, we all know that it's not 85% dudes watching the games. We all know that it's everybody watching those games. So, yeah, I
And I'm sorry to interrupt you, but let's dig in even deeper to that point. Not only is it not just men watching, but women possess 83% of the global purchasing power worldwide. So if you're advertising said product, it is more than likely that the woman is making the decision to purchase said product.
and
Okay, I'm
you're
sorry,
no,
go
you're
on.
very true. I mean, you're talking about, like, who controls the ultimate purse strings in the household. I mean, yeah, I mean, that's a bullseye right there from you, for sure, and we do talk about that just on my local level here in Phoenix, just on the local level, and even with the company that I work for as a whole, which has markets in the Western United States. We do talk about the amount of, female engagement versus male engagement. We talk about things like that. And we can look at some statistics that we get in house. Like if we do a contest, we can see the demographics of the people who enter the contest, just as far as gathering some data points. And we do see more and more that, we do have more female engagement. So I do think that drives our hope to have more inclusion forward, but also just speaking on the point of, the 85% and do we talk about these things? There have been specific instances where a client I know will come in and they say, "Well, we want, a guy that sounds like this person." And well, we do have a few different options that get pretty close to the voice match or whatever. They want somebody that
Sure.
sounds like John Hamm or whatever. But when I look at the script and I think to myself, what would be the other option? And that's how I think. I think, all right, what's the opposite of John Hamm? Because if John Hamm's saying, there's nothing like Mercedes Benz, it's the luxury, you feel it on your butt cheeks when you sit down on the leather.
You kinda sound like
Now
him,
that's
Jason.
a problem because no one will cast me because they'll want to cast John Hamm instead.
Really? You sound that first line especially, you sounded just like
Yeah, I can
him.
voice match a few people, and if you really want to go there, we can get into it at another time. Maybe that's for another podcast. So,
Oh, I hear it, I
but
hear it.
like the thing with the opposite, the thing with what's the opposite of this? I always try to present that option, and if the sometimes the script just doesn't jibe with that. During COVID, there was a lot of that. In these unprecedented times, life is not normal and everything else, and the opposite of that would be, hey, in these unprecedented times, nothing's normal. It's crazy out there. We couldn't do that. We can't present that to a client because then it would look at me and go, is this guy serious? This guy, you pay this guy. So that's where the opposite doesn't work. But I always try to present the opposite. And we have some female voice talent at this radio station that I work at, that I get all the time to come in and read the opposite for something I'm casting for, something I'm creating, and I never know until I hear it. So I gotta hear it, no matter what. I gotta hear it. And I would encourage anyone out there, if you're casting for something and you really want to bring some options, if it works, there, like I mentioned earlier in my example, sometimes it doesn't work. But if it works, get that opposite in there. And if the opposite is the voice of a woman, especially for those tough blue collar things, like your paving company or whatever, try it. Talk, pitch it. Just pitch it. Try it, pitch it. You'll be surprised at what you come up with and the things that you discover while you're doing that. Even if it doesn't specifically work out for that client, you'll make some discoveries that you just weren't prepared for, like I did when I started looking at, all right, how does this beer commercial we're getting work with a woman's voice? Or how does this beer commercial we're getting work with a man's voice that's not what they're casting for? Um, just all of those things. But typically, yeah, really the opposite. It just gives you some eye-opening options, and it gives you some discoveries into things that you just didn't think about before. Um, I hear I hear it sometimes that people are trying things, especially on the internet. You're watching YouTube, and all of a sudden one of those pre-roll commercials comes in, and they take a lot more risks out there because the stakes aren't quite as high as they are on broadcast TV. And that's my point. It took me a while to work back to it. I think that because the stakes are so high in the Super Bowl commercials, we're talking specifically in those type of things. I think because the stakes are so high, I think, it's just my observation, and it's a bit of speculation too. I think the corner suite gets together, and I think the corner suite makes some of these deals on the golf course, and I think the corner suite gets together and makes some of these deals outside of the building, and it's built on relationships and it's built on everything else. And some of it is probably due to the writing, but these relationships are probably what make these buys happen. So
So basically, what you just said, if you read between the lines, is there's a boys' club.
there's got to be a boys club out there, and it when you look at the CEOs of corporations, when you look at the chief marketing officers and everybody else, that's running these things, you do see some women nowadays where you wouldn't before, especially on the marketing side. But yeah, there's not as many female CEOs of the big Super Bowl advertising brands. There's not as many female CEOs of those companies. So yeah, and who's to say that a man can't be open to those conversations, and who's to say that a man can't flip that switch in his mind and say, yeah, you know what, we do need to start considering, would a female voice work for this thing where it's always been a male's voice? The Budweiser commercial, like the Christmas Budweiser commercial, with the
With
Clydesdales
it always has
and
yeah, yeah, yeah,
everything,
yeah.
why wouldn't that work? Why couldn't it be Mrs. Claus instead of Santa? I mean, just really think
Alright,
about it.
okay.